Everybody. I'm a little nervous, so we'll see if I can calm down after we get going a little bit. I'll start off when I was 11 years old. Well, I'll start off with, in my family, the main goal as a kid in the family was to not be seen. If you stayed out of the view of my parents, then you wouldn't get hit or have any issues. So eventually my mom decided to divorce my dad because things were pretty bad between them and for some of my siblings and myself. They got divorced when I was 11, and my dad kind of went crazy. He was arrested. He was running a trucking industry where they were taking semis from different states and stripping them down and reselling them. So they moved me and my brother, two of my brothers and one of my sisters, to Buena Vista, Colorado, to kind of keep us out of the situation. After a while, I came back with my mom, and my mom was dating somebody, and we just were never, basically we just didn't know what we were supposed to do as kids, or what goals or directions to go. And at 13, I went and got a job working for Cham Cafe, a Chinese restaurant, washing dishes for $1 an hour. And in that restaurant, most of the cooks and all the older people were in their early 20s, and they all smoked pot and did drugs. And they found that they had a 13-year-old kid that had lots of friends or connections around the area that could sell some drugs for them or move some drugs. And so I got caught up in selling drugs for them, supplying to the high schools and stuff like that. And I just got more and more into marijuana, into mushrooms, and just different kinds of drugs. And started drinking and partying, and just, I thought that's what life was about. That's the direction life was. There were no responsibilities. Never thought about the next day. It was always just about who I was going to hang out with and who was going to party. And that went on all the way through high school and all the teenage years. And I'd had a few relationships, but the entire time I stayed working in the food industry. And we always partied. That was just a normal routine thing. And I always stayed connected with the older people that I learned and associated with, and the drugs moved from marijuana to mushrooms, to acid, to meth, eventually to heroin, and got all caught up in that. So I thought I would get married and try to get sober. I actually joined the Army, and when I went up to the MEP station, I popped positive, so they said, "No, you're not coming. You're not going to be able to join the military." So then I went back, got caught up again, doing drugs again, then talked to a recruiter, joined the Navy. And the recruiter said, you got to just do this, this, and this, and we'll get you in. And so I did everything, did all the stuff, and I joined the Navy, and I went into the Navy, and I did my boot camp. I was newly married. I'd been married for about 4 months. While I was in boot camp, there was some of my friends that were hanging out with my new wife, and it was a little bit questionable. And I came back, and then I went back for Naval Aviation Technical Training in Millington, Tennessee. And I found out that my wife had been fooling around with somebody else. And so I freaked out and left. They brought me back and charged me for desertion and incarcerated me. They put me in a federal prison in Millington, Tennessee. I had no idea people could become, how evil and conniving and just self-serving. And that was a new reality. I grew up here in Orem, Utah, and Millington, Tennessee was a pretty rough area, and the reality I learned in that prison was harsh. I didn't ever have any family support. When I got out, they released me into Millington with a pair of sweats and shoes and a t-shirt. So I had to figure out how to get from there back to Utah. I got back here and I got divorced. I got right back into the drugs. Sorry, I need a drink. So I got divorced and moved back here. I thought something's got to help me figure out how to get out of this, how to change, how to stop using drugs, how to fix my life. And I started visiting with some of the people in my area that were in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they worked with me, and they got me to come back to going to church and to get ordained. And then I went through the temple, and that lasted about maybe 4 months before I went right back to using drugs again. It was not something that took then. It was just something short fixes. I never looked at why I was using drugs or the reasons why I was doing drugs. Shortly after that, I'd gotten extremely strung out. I was running back and forth to Salt Lake regularly. I was on the methadone clinic. I was just working to get drugs. It was just an endless cycle. Eventually, I had an overdose. I woke up in the hospital, and the doctor was lecturing me on how bad I was when I came in there. This was before they had Narcan, and they had to use adrenaline or something like that. And he lectured me on it, and it didn't even register to me what had happened or anything. The minute I got out of the hospital, I was right back to doing what I was doing, and just running all over the place, just being a couch surfer, doing drugs, living at my sister's, living at my brother's, just all over the place. And that was had been about until I was about 27, 28. This entire time I stayed employed with JB's, and spent another good three years just staying high. Time passed by. I met my wife, Eve. We grew up together. We knew each other from when we were little. We got married. We ended up just getting high, doing the whole thing, trying to have a relationship, trying to act like we were married, and trying to raise a kid. She had overdosed a few times. I overdosed again. The whole thing started to fall apart, come apart again. Got arrested. Got arrested multiple times. Spent over 2 years incarcerated in the county jails. Kept chasing drugs. chasing around, around and around. I even moved to Cedar City to try to get away from people. I even went to rehab to try to fix it. I never really put forth any real work. It was always just fake, surface only, just I don't know, I never really had an understanding that there was so much more out in life than just getting through the next day, just getting what you need for the next day. The only time I drank was in Cedar City. I drank for 7 months straight. I ended up losing my job down there, and my brothers and my stepfather, they come down and just basically loaded everything I had up and me into a truck and just brought me back up here. And then the same thing, I went to work for my stepdad, working construction, and he owned the company, so it was easy to stay high and just keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over. At my point, Eve divorced me. I don't know. She just had enough of the lies, I guess, and the deception and all the garbage. She got tired. Marshals came, hauled her off. The marshals come and hauled me off, hunt us down. A whole nightmare of being chased around because AP&P is not happy with what you're doing. Eventually, I decided to try to get sober. My brother, he's one of, we've been through a lot together, and he shot and killed his wife. That was a harsh reality. And his wife was one of my good friends from high school. It opened my mind to, there's got to be more reality to this world. There's got to be something more than what we're doing, what we're chasing around. The endless nightmare of just constantly trying to get a fix, to make yourself feel better, to just make it through. And I was on probation, and AP&P come and grabbed me and took me in for a UA, and I tried playing the tragedy of what happened with my brother to avoid. They locked me up for the weekend, and then they let me back out after a 72-hour hold. And from that point, I decided to actually put forth a little effort into trying to see things, try to see what's wrong with me, why am I like this, why am I doing this? At one point, I don't know how to explain it, but I didn't remember doing it. So I ended up taking a whole bunch of pills and trying to take my life. And I woke up in the hospital, my wife and her brother there asking me how many pills I took. And in my mind, I was processing it. I said 2, and they were like, no, you mean 200, 400? And I didn't remember what had happened, not at all. I still was convinced that I only took 2 pills, and that's what happened. And I got back out of the hospital, right back to getting high again and doing the routine. And I started to pray and to read the Book of Mormon and to just read whatever I could read, trying to honestly put forth an honest effort into understanding what is the purpose of this life and what my purpose is here. And I did that. I stayed pretty much sober, a little bit of fear from AP&P. Didn't want to go back to being locked up again. But I'd met some farmers who were LDS, and they were really down-to-earth people, really good people. They worked with me, preached to me, talked with me, and I worked through that with them. I started going with them to church and reading and praying, and I did that for 6 months straight. I honestly gave an honest effort to learn something, to try to understand and to gain some knowledge from it. And after so it had been 10 years ago, or 9 years ago, 2013 in August, so it's coming up, this will be the 10th year of my sobriety. I was praying, and I asked the Lord to help me remember the awful situation my life was in. And right then, my mind opened up, and I saw myself perfectly standing there in my parents' kitchen, eating all my brother's. So my brother's a handicap, and he suffers from Tourette syndrome. And so he takes a bunch of phenobarbital and stuff like that. So I saw myself standing in the kitchen eating all these pills, and then I saw myself go over and lay down. And then I saw myself go to a mist of darkness where I was trapped and I couldn't get out. And then I saw a being of light walk me back. And nothing's been the same ever since then. I went back to college. I got a bachelor's degree. I graduated in 2016. I started working for the church in 2013. I worked in the Manti Temple for 6 years, in the Provo Temple for 2 years, and now I'm an operational manager for the Church of Jesus Christ. I manage 4 operations. I'm in charge of all the staffing and all the meals for General Conference. So the massive change in my life has all been in the last 10 years, and it has all been due to real intent and truly trying to learn and get educated and be a productive part of society. That was one of the main reasons why I went back to college was, cops pulled me over and it says, 7 felonies, all this, and I wanted to show people that I had changed. Things were different, and things have changed, and things are different. And it doesn't take that long, really. I spent 35 years chasing the same stupid thing round and round and round and round, and never getting any joy, never getting any happiness out of it. Constantly not liking myself, not liking other people, It was just a nightmare, nonstop. And I know that, 30 plus years ago, I was in a room like this, sitting, listening to another guy that was sitting over there talking about how he'd been sober for like 5-6 years, and I thought, there's no way I can't get, I need to get high tomorrow, and just, but there is light at the end. There is always a way out. There is always hope, an opportunity. It's all I can really say is you have to be real. You have to have real intent with getting out of that world and getting away from drugs and making different choices that will lead you to happiness and self-esteem. It will lead you to loving yourself and enjoying life and enjoying what there is out in this world to be offered to you. There's so much garbage. I don't know what else to really say other than there is always hope.